So hopefully this is not too painful to watch. A lot of teething problems today. So if we've got a policy exception, I'm just going to create a new one. And I need to try and find an issue. So let's say Gary rejection. So I need to select one of these three things in policy exception. I don't have to select all. They're all showing as mandatory right now. But the issue, if I can find an issue that is related to a control, I'm actually better off doing it the other way around. In fact, if we start with controls, go to a control. If I find a control that's got either no status, like this one, I think we must have used this for a previous session. We can see Mark's name in here, but if I just pick on this control, create an issue, that issue is going to give me the option to respond to it. Okay, so maybe something is wrong. Something's wrong, and guess what? I'm not going to be able to fix it. So if I respond to this and say accept it, I cannot solve. I need temporary relief. Brilliant. So now on the policy exception, hold on, maybe it needs to be assigned to me. That's quite funny, I don't see the new button down here. Not sure why I don't get the new button right now. It's not to do with the state, I don't think. Let's just have a look. Where's the new button gone? So under list control, just switch to global and just configure form layout. I need to see these conditions. Omit, or I just add all of these to the bottom of the form. Much simpler. So omit new condition is what I'm looking for, really. Here we go. Okay, so if the parent content is empty, or the parent's not active, or the parent assigned to is not me, and I don't have the GRC manager role, I should pass those tests, to be honest with you. So let's look at that issue. Let's just check if it should be active. I just created it. Active, true. Does it not have content? Yeah, okay, so shouldn't make a difference. Oh, okay, it does make a difference because the control is related to policy, so it has to be something with a control objective attached to it. So I'll jump to a different control. So I have prepared the community posts that I want to cover, but I've not prepared to actually answer them. I'm jumping straight into this cold. So one thing to check is that the exempt flag is empty. That's very important. Let's create a new issue. Okay, so we've got a control, got an issue with it. I'll just assign it to me because it makes sense. If I create this issue and say something wrong, the reason that the control is not compliant, when I save this, it should populate the control objective, which is the content. And then if I respond to this and say I accept it, you don't have to do this, I don't think. You see the new buttons here already. It just, for me, tells a bit of a cleaner story. So you've got a policy exception. If you're going to remediate the issue, then you don't need to raise a policy exception. The issue's solved, it's gone away. if you can't remediate it either now or in the kind of near future, then you're going to accept the issue. The control's going to stay non-compliant. So we accept this and say unable to solve in the time frame. We'll raise a policy exception. Okay, so that for me is a very clean sort of journey then. So I've got an issue. By the way, if I close the issue entirely, then I can't raise a policy exception against it. Okay, so while it's in review, respond phase, you can raise a policy exception against it. As soon as this gets closed, then I won't be able to raise that policy exception. The idea, I think, there is that you keep the issue open. It's obviously in accept, leave it in review, show that you've got it related to a policy exception, and then you can always come back to it and decide what to do with it. So short description is unable to solve the issue, need temporary relief. So because I've come in from an issue, it's populated one of the 3 fields, but when I save this, it's going to look at the issue, it's going to be connected to a control, that control is connected to a control objective, and this is going to automatically populate. The schedule, we need to say when this is valid from, so I like to use a date in the past just because it's easier. We don't have to sit there waiting for that time to come. And valid to, for some reason my browser is playing up on this. Not sure what's happening here. If I can grab that, no. Let's see if it's just this tab. Really don't want to reload the form. I think it's just crashing out on me. Just because things were going well. No, let's just make sure that's not gone off the screen or something. I haven't got anything open anywhere. If I reload the form, it's going to be painful going back from the issue, policy exception. Okay. I'll get less and less detail in my demo data here. So valid from yesterday or Sunday. Valid to, I'm going to set this in the future. Okay, so there's only actually there 7 days of relief. Probably not a real life use case, but yeah, watch the issue. When I save this, the control objective will be populated. The control's in draft. That was the other thing I forgot to check. So let's just go and throw this control into a test. And what's happening if I take this out and put this back in? There we go. Now the control objective is populated using Ajax. If we save this, it's made the change, it's populated the impacted control. Okay, I've got a choice here. I can add more impacted controls against that control objective. I could just say add all, I don't have to go and select them. I've talked previously about the relationship here between risks and mitigating controls, so I'm not going to cover that right now. I really want to get into Gary's issue. Okay, so he's saying here that he's got rejected approval, and then they've got the option to come back to it. So obviously in the approvers tab, the edit button is not there by default. Let's just take a look at the list control and see what's going to be causing this. So no edit button, no edit, oh look, omit completely. So if we go to policy and compliance, just before I make any changes, I do want to just fire up an update set. say policy exception, approval, rejection. And I'll go back to that list control and let's enable the edit button. Okay, that should mean then this does happen sometimes. Yeah, it doesn't let me save that even though the list control is on the compliance table. So if I change it to global, it won't let me edit it. I forget what happens here, how we can get around this. Okay, so we've got quite a few viewers live, so yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you jump straight over the obstacles at the start with the errors in my broadcasting skills. So how can I allow this edit button in here when if I change to global it's grayed out. If I change to policy and compliance, I can edit it but it won't let me save it. So I have come across this before. If I change to global, I did notice that the enable edit button was visible. I thought it was. No? Okay. When I did it this way. I was sure I saw the enable edit button up there. Well, bit difficult to just solve that. Let's have a look at this controls. And the table is SN compliance policy exception. We can't see. I need to change that shortcut on my keyboard. It really does catch me out. Let's look at the application. Table, update name, display name. Okay, so they're all in policy and compliance. So let's see if we say omit edit button. I'm trying to see which one of these belongs to my table, but I can't really see it from here. So if I come in here and say configure list control, related list, that's the field I want. Related list, this one. Just stick these up the front. So it's this one here. Omit edit button true. It's not going to let me edit that because I'm in the wrong update set scope. If I now try and change it, no, change straight back. Tricky. Gary, I'm struggling to help you here, mate. I'm really sorry. How have you done it? How have you been able to modify the approvers so you can add to them manually? This is a tough one, probably a bit too late. I need to come back to this subject matter. I'm afraid this has caught me out before, and I know there's a solution. It's because the approval table is global. Therefore, the list control related to it kind of falls under the global scope, even though the related list itself and the list control and the parent table belongs to policy and compliance. There is a solution, there is a way around this. It's just catching me off right now, and I don't really know where to go with that. I wanted to look at the point from Gary, and I did comment on this before, is in the workflow, and we could probably kind of represent this somewhere else, is that if you add a manual approver, the workflow doesn't necessarily know about it. So what you want to be able to do is check in the workflow before it moves on to the next stage, have we got any additional approvers, any manual approvers, and include them and reset them, you know, as it goes back round. Because here Gary's talking about reinitiating the workflow. When that happens normally, and I think you can change this in the setting, what normally happens is it will look at the approvals that the workflow has already added, and it will turn them back to requested. It will cancel others, etc. So it really does kind of keep track of its own state. I was going to try and drill into that, but I'm afraid, Gary, I've come up a little bit short based on the scope issue. So let's just post in here, hi Gary, I did try and look into this for you, but I got a bit stuck on the list control for policy exception. I wanted to enable the edit button. However, it got restricted on scope. How did you enable the manual approvers? Question. I mean, there's always other options as well. Things trip us up all the time on the platform, and then you can struggle for months or even sometimes years with something, and then just speak to somebody else and they will just say, oh, just do this, click here, and if can solve a lot of pain very quickly. One option could be that you go and create your own custom UI action, for example. I'm not suggesting that's what we need to do, but if you did get stuck in this, that edit button, all it is a UI action. The UI action looks at this list control, and if the list control, you'll see the parameter things like rp.isRelatedList, is edit enabled, is enable edit. Those sorts of properties are available on the render, I think it's called render properties, the RP. That is going to allow us to toggle the edit button on or off. We should be able to just quickly point to the server scope and type in here render properties. No, what if we type RP? Yeah, RP, render properties. So you can see some of the options is many to many, is related list, get list control. So all of those things can be accessed through RP dot, and in that way you don't need to go and create your own custom UI actions in most cases. So I'm going to move on to the next topic that I'd chosen. So sorry Gary, I don't think I finished answering your question, but how did you enable the manual approvers? That will do for now, so that's up to date. And the next one, GRC risk indicators. So this was something I was quite looking forward to covering off. Just checking the time, so we've been going for 30 minutes, and I spent 6 of them talking on mute. So GRC risk indicators. Let me just copy this link and I will paste this into the chat on YouTube. So risk indicators of type manual do not execute automatically to produce an indicator task. So Eden has posted this. So trying to trigger risk indicators of type manual. Triggering the indicators should in turn create create indicator tasks, correct, which are also not being automatically generated. I have already activated the scheduled job. This enables indicators of type basic to execute correctly. Does anyone know why manual indicators are being left out? I follow the trail. The script includes associated to the scheduled job, e.g. the indicator engine, and found nothing different from out of the box. I know this is not working correctly because in a separate out of the box instance, manual indicators trigger correctly. Okay, so that's a bit of a shame that we are going to be looking at an out of the box instance. My Orlando instance is probably not out of the box anymore, but it's as close as any of my other instances, so it's not heavily customized. I'm looking forward to taking a look at this with you. Okay, so no one else has come in here. I did ask Eden to check that nothing has been overridden in the base classes. Please can you post a screenshot of your basic indicator templates including the schedule form? Well, I think when I said basic here I meant manual. Thinking about this now, so what we can do is just step through and just look at that process. I think that might be useful. So if we go to performance analytics, now what we want to do is go to, in fact if I go to a risk statement, because it's in the context of risk, so let's just create an indicator template directly from a risk statement. Is there anything in here already about pandemic? No. Sick? No. Health? No, nothing in here. So I'll tell you what, let's create one. Create a risk statement that says loss of productivity due to pandemic. If an outbreak of a virus were to occur, then cities could go into lockdown and business would be negatively affected. We could have looked at this sort of risk 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and you wouldn't be taking this seriously. So I'm very interested into how organisations, risk registers, compliance frameworks are going to change as a result of this. And actually the next topic that I want to cover is from RAF, the link to all of the common controls. So at the moment for me, we are starting to understand what this is really meaning for our customers, but also for other businesses, and starting to think about what's the best shape for addressing this. Right now it's definitely a bit tricky. You'll notice that my scoring here is done using quantitative. I just haven't changed the property yet. I've got advanced risk turned on, So we've got risk roll up and tolerance. In fact, that's why I left it on quantitative. So let's save my risk statement, and I'm just going to go into my indicator templates. Before I do that, I just want to check. So one thing I haven't done, and what I'm just going to do quickly, is pull down the COVID integration app. So this was just something I don't want to create application. This was just something I knocked together. How do I get into source control? I think I went in the wrong way. Let's go through Studio. Just because I want to create a risk indicator that is going to be meaningful. Here we go. Import from source control. I need to just get the URL. Here we go. Branch, username. Repo cannot be accessed. Okay, sorry. Let's got the wrong one there. There we go. I missed the .git off the end. The branch does not exist. Yeah, so okay, this is new in Orlando. I've not messed around with some of this source integration. The branch doesn't exist yet. Obviously, using the Studio now, I think it creates a branch or gives you the ability to easily create branches and choose which of your updates you want to commit at any point in time. This application is really very simple. It's just going to pull down data from Johns Hopkins University by location, and then what I will do is create a risk against that location, and then I'll be able to create an indicator against it. So I'm not trying to dwell on this too much because it's really not anything to shout about. I have made it available. If you want the link, I'll paste that into the live chat as well. So that is freely available, and you can fork it. You know, if it's useful in any way, then please help yourself, contribute, whatever. So I'm not going to click get historical data. What I'm going to do is look for a scheduled job. You can see there's no time series data right now. If I just pull some in and look for COVID daily, so I need to make sure it's the type class, trigger type, no, which is type on here. I think it's this one. One of them is a PA indicator. Oh, I've gone in the wrong link, that's why. This is what I want. Scheduled job. Now go for COVID. Scheduled, yeah, like scheduled data collection is PA. Scheduled script execution is the API. So it's actually going to run every hour. I'm just going to execute this now, and we should, fingers crossed, start to see some data. Unfortunately, the historical data is, when I last looked at this, was coming in a different format. Okay, if that doesn't happen, not to worry. we will go and create an indicator. We can always just create a time series record in there if we need to. So we were going to look at basic ones, manual. So indicators, if you're not aware, there are three main types of indicators in ServiceNow GRC. These are manual, basic, and scripted. Okay, you have to be a developer to see the scripted. Manual is going to generate a task, and a typical use case that I use to explain this is imagine that you had to go and check on your fire extinguishers in the building. You would get a manual indicator, send it out to maybe the receptionist or the security guard or somebody from the facilities team, and you send them round to go and check that all the fire extinguishers are in date. That would be a task. They handle that through ServiceNow's workflow, and all they know is they've got a task that tells them go and check all the fire extinguishers in your building, and they come back to the task, close it, and say yes, it passed. Okay, that data, the fire extinguisher information, is not available online. It's not in the platform, so that's a manual indicator. The basic indicator is, although it's called basic, actually it's very powerful. It is called basic because it's not a PA indicator, it's not a scripted indicator. Basic means that it's going to make a basic decision. Does this pass or fail based on me having a result? So if I go and check for something good, some evidence of something good, then having that record means it's good and we pass the indicator. If I don't have the record, in that case, then it would fail it. And likewise, you can go and flip a switch and say if the indicator finds results, that's a bad thing. So you could go and check for, emergency changes during business hours, or something that your policy, your risk, your controls say that you shouldn't have. Go and check for that thing. If it finds it, that's a fail, and likewise if it doesn't find anything, that's all good. So basic, and then scripted, you can within reason do what you like. And actually we've done some really cool stuff to use scripted indicators to actually execute external APIs and go and check external systems. So more relevant use cases might be, actually, rather than just saying I've got a result, maybe you want to make a decision based on a certain threshold. Maybe you want to do some more kind of logical calculation, something that's not directly of Boolean value. So scripted allows us that power. And then what you don't see here is performance in analytics. They come in for a different direction, and you also have something coming in from security operations around configuration compliance, and to be honest, that's not something I've worked much with at the moment. So we're going to focus on manual. We're going to go to Edan's question and say, why would a manual not execute automatically? So if we look here and say check for local infections. Okay, so then all of this information that you see under method, under type manual, short description, this is the information that's going to be stored in the task. So when the facilities person gets told go and check fire extinguishers, they don't need to know anything other than go and check fire extinguishers. In this case it would be, maybe you'd prefix it, say COVID-19, go and check for local infections. And the instructions here are to be able to step through, guide the assigned to person what steps they need to go and check, and how to mark the result accordingly. So if you find any local infections, then fail. And record number in the value field. That will do. And we'll make value mandatory. So what we'd expect then, if it passes, should be a 0. Supporting data. So, you know, another use case for manual, you can still use manual if your data's in the platform, but maybe the processes are not mature enough. Maybe you're just not in a position to make an automated decision. So what you want to do is go and give the user the task. For instance, go and grab a load of change requests, all related to your business service, and this would be your supporting data in the manual context here. So you would say, to support you in your task, here's some evidence. Please go through that evidence and check that the instructions, etc., follow this and make your decision. Manually make your decision, but here's some supporting data to help you. Okay. You know, maybe in the fire extinguisher case, you might go and get your supporting data and go and select all the CIs of type fire extinguisher in the location. You know, reference field is the location, etc. So you could get some data, but maybe that's not going to tell you that A, it's in place, no one's hanging their coat up on your fire extinguisher, and it's you know, not been tampered with. It's not being used to prop open a fire door, etc. So supporting data in this case is actually able to kind of embellish the task. I'm not going to involve that right now because I just want to make sure that I can get some data and actually execute the indicator. Just click something there, sorry. So did I not? I thought I gave this a name, but apparently not. So because this is directly attached to the control, the risk statement, we can see the categories change. This is something that came in New York, version 9, I think. So down here you would see all the indicators that when this gets executed have been set up. So if we look at our schedule, we've got daily, weekly, etc. Okay, so no, this is the indicator template. It's against the content, so it's against the template of the risk or the control objective. The indicators here are against the entity. We don't have any risks set up yet, so that is my next stage. This is not, so against the indicator, that's where you see the indicator task being set up, or the indicator result coming in as well. So my risk statement doesn't have any risks. I am going to just go and check back on my time series and see if that job has come in. No, for some reason. Just curious if any logs have come in. Undefined value has no properties. Okay. Let's just check this script include. Curious if it is the app. If it is, then I'll probably need to fix that, but I'm not going to do that right this moment. We just say sysid starts with, and I'll just paste that in. Emergency exposure management, scheduled diagnostics utils. Okay, so it's not my app. Let's just do one more check using explore. So under my scheduled job, where have we gone? Scheduled script execution. Let's just take a look at this. So if we go into explore, one reason I love explore, apart from working with objects, JavaScript objects, it's really powerful for that. The other reason is the ability to just easily select scope. So in the background script, that's not possible for most of us mortals. This gives us the ability to run code within scripts, you know, so for application development it's super powerful. Syntax error expected M. Yeah, so that has happened to me before. Got a bug in the app. I hope nobody has really wanted to download that and it's just not worked. Just take a quick look if we can fix it. Line 52. Let's see what's going on. Object response equals. Yes, see here I've put comment, not pretty if response is not JSON. Just curious what we're doing. If we hit this now, is this working? Because it hasn't failed, it's returned something that's internal server error. Okay, I mean in some ways that's promising. It's not my app. Always the problem when we're relying on an external system for any integration. You know, the target or the endpoint that you're connecting to does need to be robust as well. So I will take a look at that. I've been trying to get the data directly from sort of John Hopkins. Not really been very successful with that, but I haven't laboured it too much. So what we can do is just look at, you know, time series data and create a record, or potentially if I just go to, I'm just going to go into another instance in my other window. Let's see how we're doing on the chat. Yeah, okay, no messages, but we've got a few people tuned in, so yeah, give me a message, give me any feedback. I know that we won't talk about the start and talking on mute. I know it's not been perfect, but yeah, any feedback. RJ, are you happier with the microphone? Raf, how's my energy levels? I haven't had much other feedback, but yeah, thanks also to the subscribers. I've got 8 subscribers on this channel now, and it's not a huge number, but really appreciate anyone that is interested and is benefiting from what's happening here. So yeah, hope everyone's safe. So the last time this worked was the 6th. Okay, so it's only a temporary glitch. My scheduled job is set up to run every hour, just because I wasn't sure how that data was going to be coming in, and it will update itself. So you know, in that respect, I felt that at least with the hour run that we would be getting up-to-date data. It could well be that that's not very performant. One thing I did just realise is that my locations also needs to be exported. This is really my biggest problem with working with the COVID data. I am going to circle back, by the way, to the indicator topic. I just wanted to try and make this meaningful. Okay, so we've got some just going to filter my locations and say created on or after, at or after 23rd of March, no, let's say the 18th of March. Start there, run, that should do the trick. Just export that XML. Okay, thanks. So if I import XML, I'm just going to do this in the other window just for how did that happen? Okay, yeah. Just for privacy reasons, you don't want to see my my file structure, I don't think. Okay, so I've pulled in the locations. Now if I pull in the time series data, we shouldn't be too far out. There's 4,000 rows, so it will take just a moment, and excellent, we've got this, we are in. So you can see now we've got 4,009 records, we've got real locations. So if I create now, need to just get back to the main nav. Just go and look at my entity types for location under risk. Nothing for location. Great. So I will create locations in here. Generate target, by the way, this is something to do with the new use case accelerators. I've drilled into that a little bit, but I've not looked at it in a huge amount of detail, so still a lot of learning to do on that area. But if you're looking at the entity type and wondering what generate target means, and you might have also seen the framework thing flash up and then get hidden by UI policy, this is both of these related to use case accelerators. I'm going to look at an entity filter on my location table. CMN location, and what should I look for where country is not empty? I don't really want every single location in there. Okay, 600. Let's just take a quick look at them. A bit too detailed, basically. Let's see where city is empty. City is empty. 195. Okay, so and let's just see what they look like. Yeah, so these are kind of country level. And say country is not empty. Use owner field, put the contact, and empty owner, say use default. I'm just going to put my own name in there. Okay, so if I submit this and go back, somehow I lost my entity type stack, update entities from filters, and then the other thing I want to do is look at my risk statement. I'm just going to create, actually this is really nice, just a little touch point here. Previously, this came in New York as well, I think, but previously if I want to create kind of like a standalone risk, but for a real entity, e.g. it's not a independent entity, I would have to go into the risk, click new risk, and then select the entity here. Okay, not a problem, absolutely fine to do it that way. That would then be a kind of standalone risk. Okay, it would have a flag on it that said manually created equals true. That might also then kind of detach it from some of the automation that takes place. An option now is this additional entities. If we click add, and I want to pick on United Kingdom. Okay, it's not come through. through yet, so just make sure it did land. Oh, let's get rid of this. Not sure why city is populated in United Kingdom. The entity type, if not, I'll just use a different location. I'd like to keep it local. If we want to get that UI action up again, we can just modify our filter. Country is empty, and there's no active flag on here, is there? No. Yeah, I don't really want to put another condition in there. What we could do is, yeah, put full name. Full name is not empty. Okay, and it's not going to change. So if we update the entity filter, now we've got this, and that should bring in 191. The one that was missing was the UK because it had a city against it. So let's just wait for that to happen. There we go. Under here, additional entities, if I type United Kingdom, here we go. So what's going to happen now, I add the relationship of this entity, I associate this entity with my risk statement. I haven't mapped the entity type. The entity type contains 191 locations, and I don't want all of them. Now in here, obviously, I could select United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, etc., etc. So I could select a subset of my scope. If I click Add Relationship, a new risk has been created. Okay. Now when we look at this risk, let's just modify. Yeah, created manually, that's what we're looking for. Just personalize my list. Not sure why status is showing on here. Created manually, false. Okay, so this brings it into the control, or at least the automation of GRC. Alternatively, let me just create another risk from the statement, so it should get repopulated, but I have to select the profile. I'm going to pick on United Arab Emirates. Okay, and when I submit this, again the stack went a bit funny there, probably because I've got too many tabs open. Let's look at those two risks. Look, one's created manually, one's not created manually because it's attached here. So this will bring it, as I say, into scope for things like where you're mapping risk statements to control objectives, and then it's automatically mapping the risks to the controls, etc. Yeah, this is going to be, I think, really powerful once customers are able to start making use of it, basically. So I've got two risks. I've got an indicator template. My risks are scoped based on location. My indicator template is saying go and check for local infections, and I've got two indicators. Now let's just see what happens when you see this. This is one of the things that needs to be changed in the list layout quite often. We can just personalize the list. I don't know if this allows me to dot walk there. So I've got the control, but I don't see the entity. I've got the entity table. Yeah, so it needs to be modified, and that needs to be done in profiles. I'm just going to do this in the default set based on time. If I modify that list layout, what I really want to see is the entity in here. Okay, because otherwise they all look the same. The control risk looks the same. Did I select entity type? My bad. List layout. Was a bit too trigger happy there. So under control, not entity type, entity there. Yeah, the control risk, everything looks the same. The name and the link to the control and risk item doesn't tell us the difference, right? We need to go in and personalize, to configure that list layout. So now I can see this one here, United Kingdom. This is the indicator I care about, or at least the one I want to focus on right now. If I click execute, what's going to happen? An indicator task is going to be generated. So it shouldn't take too long. There we go. What doesn't happen, we don't get, just going to reload the whole form, we don't get an indicator result yet. The indicator result is what generates the pass or fail. The indicator task, when it gets closed, is going to generate the indicator result, and the indicator result is going to continue with that workflow as normal. So I've got the task because I'm the risk owner. You can see this is what somebody would receive. It's been assigned to me, short description, instructions, and then I've got an option to come into here and provide more detail in the description, more comments because it's a task. So what I have to currently do, and you can see down here actually the supporting data is not populated, but it could have been populated. What I can do is come down here and say, okay, go and check for local infections. So I can go off to COVID and say, okay, don't know if I really want to look at these numbers right now. Right, okay, in my location, okay, not very local, it's at the country level or the nation level. It's greater than 0, so I'm going to get that number confirmed, and I am going to fill out my task and say state, that's work in progress. Now it's closed, and my result is failed. My value is 52,000. Now this is a string field, so you can type words in there if you want. We have allowed commas, but it's not going to translate that to a real number. It is still a string, and I just update this. Okay, so because I've closed it, an indicator result has been generated. If we look at my indicator task, it's closed. The results come in here. Passed is false. Look at the indicator. Last result passed is false. And obviously for the risk, it won't change too much here because I haven't actually scored my risk. But what you'll see is in the monitoring field, the indicator failure factor is now at 100. Okay, so my risk factor is at 100. This means in terms of scoring, my calculated risk is going to be much further up the scale of inherent. So that risk is going to, not going to be scoring very well because we've got high risk indicator being checked here. Now what we could do is look at our indicator template and say supporting data, yes, collect supporting data. Table is going to be, don't know what the app's called yet, time series. Supporting data fields, we want the date, the location, confirmed, received, deaths, infected, just put the create date on here, created and updated. No. Oh, did I put updated in here? It's there. Right. Okay, sorry, going blind. Now the criteria I will say is created, or date is on, at or after yesterday, say this week, just to frame it. Now use reference field, we are going to select location because our entity is of type location, So our applies to record in the entity record is going to point to the location table. We're going to get a sys-ID of the location. It's going to look at these results and only give me those which relate to my location. Sample size, this is where this is probably quite good, because we say created on this week, 7. Let's just see what happens. We'll leave it blank and we'll see how many results we get. So if I update this indicator template and then go to the risk, to the indicator, and execute this, what I'm hoping is that we see some supporting data in my task, but it's still a manual indicator. So we've got a second task now, and we've got supporting data. Okay, so that information that's relevant. See, actually it doesn't. So there are 8 records. They're actually 8 columns. Okay, the way this stores. If we look up here, we can see what day is it. So today is Tuesday. So this week, that was Monday's result. That information's been rendered from the columns up here, so we've got a snapshot and we don't need to go off and hunt. So I still want to make a manual decision. This works for me, so I can go in here and do the same thing and copy that, paste it in the value, result is failed, and that's it, closed, update. Okay, so that indicated results done. Now the actual question from Eden is that the scheduled job, no, clicking the wrong one, sorry, GRC indicator nightly run. This is false by default, so you do have to turn this on. Let's make that active. It's going to run every day at 8 o'clock, but let's save this and we will execute now. What that should mean is that my indicator is going to get a new indicator task. So we only had 2 before, we should get 3. Although we won't for this one actually, because the next runtime, oh, it's just done it. I don't know if you saw that, it just changed. So there we go, so 2007. So it has automatically created a manual indicator. Eden, I hope you had fun working through the journey of the indicator engine. It's quite a feat to behold. If you look at the structure, what I'm asking for in my comments, let me just tidy up my tabs, sorry, I know you can't see the tabs in the stream, but this, yes, so main, here we go, risk indicators, Eden. So I know you've said in here that you've worked through the trail of script includes. What I've asked is, if you are sure that nothing has been overridden in the base classes, please post a screenshot of, I said basic, I know I meant manual, so let me just go and edit that now, of your, let's just say indicator templates, that'll make more sense. Then what I want to just make sure, if you look at how GRC is configured with or built from the class structure of the script includes, you will see that the endpoint is called, for instance here, indicator engine, and this extends indicator engine base. So if this was overridden, it would be in here. I'm not sure why I can't click Sometimes that doesn't seem to be very nice. Other times I can click there. So what I should be able to do is from here easily navigate to the base. Script includes I can't change this base table. It's read only. There's no way to change this. Okay, so if I want to override something, then I copy this from here and go and paste it in here, and then that gives me the option to choose what to do when someone calls run all indicators. And if we look at this job, indicator engine run all indicators, I could actually make it do something different every time someone called that. The indicator engine, I think probably we want to cover that in a different session. Look at the structure of the indicator engine. You've got indicator strategy. It's really nice, but sometimes it's really quite abstract to understand what's going on. And if you're trying to chase through the script, then you could potentially get a little bit lost in the detail. I don't want to do that today because I'm just going to look at my hours. Yeah, I've been going for 1 hour and 16 minutes, so probably I'm going to move on from this story. It's not a story, but yeah, maybe it'd be nice to have a visual taskboard of the community. Work through things then. So I've also checked in the box, and manual indicators are definitely being executed by your job. You would need to check overridden, but also check that Ben's locked in. Hey Ben, how's it going? I'm coming to the end of this, but I'm going to do one more thing. I'm glad you made it as well. Yeah, thank you. Just going to close this topic off. I'm not able to replicate Eden's issue. So you'll need to check that there's nothing being overridden, but also check that the scheduled jobs are firing effectively. It could be that the jobs are getting stuck in the queue, etc. Please know what you find. Okay. Yeah, how's it going, Ben? I think you're in the States, right? So I hope you're safe over there, and safe and well, and isolating effectively. I know that all of ServiceNow team are working from home, right? So fingers crossed for everyone. So this story, I think I've shared it in the link. Yes. Keep calling it a story, it's a post. So the next thing I wanted to cover is my dear friend Raf has posted about this compliance response materials for GRC. I know that Eric Ferren posted recently about a webinar, and that information was shared and is available. So yeah, you can see that Raf's given a link to replay the presentation. I didn't get to watch it, unfortunately. So one thing I did want to just check is if we can get access to this materials and start to pull it in. So yeah, San Diego has been in isolation. Mostly virtual instructor. I work from home all the time. Okay, that's cool then. So you're used to it. Yeah, I think for some it's been a bit of a shock, but yeah, equally I tend to work remotely other than customer workshops. or you know, customer on-site visits, meetings, etc. It's not been too much of a shock for me, but I've yet to run a workshop remotely, so we'll see how that pans out. If anything, hopefully this is a good bit of practice. So any feedback on my style, please just jump in. Yeah, indicators. Oh, Ben, you need to get online, mate, with this legendary studio setup. We need to see it. Yeah, indicators, really good stuff. I think we can probably show you something that we've been doing as well. So we'll hook up. This was the final topic I wanted to cover. So I'll be honest, this is the first time I've had somebody commenting actively in the live chat. So probably I'm getting distracted, but that's really good for me. I like the fact that Ben's online. I know Raf's been locked in and telling me I'm muted. So it's good to definitely have some interaction. Is it possible? Let's see how easy it is to sign up to Unified Compliance. I might already have an account actually, so let me just check this on a different window. Let's see if I can use this or not. So, no, it doesn't exist. So, excellent. I'm just going to register now, create an account. Let's get back over to here. I thought I'd signed up. Maybe it was for a different email address. The only thing I'm not sure about on these live streams is how to kind of obscure. Sometimes it's not sensitive information, but you know, it's definitely personal information. Okay, so just created an account now. I'm signed up. Okay, I need to just going to get the email. Oh, thankfully. I was a bit worried that my email was going to pop up on the screen. I have got it in the other window, so that's really good. Now I can log in to get started. Excellent. So try it for free, create my profile. So this is what happens. There you go, you can see my email popped up there anyway. Let's just make sure, otherwise I should be on do not disturb notifications. I've turned Teams and everything off anyway. So create my profile. I'm just going to skip this. I'm not going to do this right now. I'm not going to upgrade right now. So just check in. Yeah, for sure. Using OBS. Yes, I am. You have some macros that might help. Excellent. Yeah, I've been playing around. I don't know if you've checked any of the other videos, but really they're just test broadcasts. I've been speaking with Raf and the rest of the team about doing some content, video content, and really I just, rather than plan too much, I just spun up OBS, set up the webcam, green screen, and just went through the community. I figure that that's as good a use as any of my time. Hopefully people get to benefit, but probably moving forward we'll do a few different formats on here, so it's not going to be all the time just trawling through the community. We want to do some more focused content, and we've also talked about, I know like the live coding happy hour guys, what they do is really cool. I've got to make sure that I don't clash with that on a Friday, because I'm not trying to compete. So yeah, I've actually I've done a few things on OBS and After Effects, but really I'm an amateur. I'll just try this, right? Little transitions. I need some sound effects. I did do one with a sound effect, but then I've also got, for instance, if I cut to this and then fly in, boom, I'm Phil. I'm a principal technical consultant, and then fly out again. Yeah, just toying with this, but anyway, let me know what you think of those. I'm going to, I've got another one as well. But I'll be in the wrong corner. Let me go into the other corner now, just so I can transition with this. So I'm going to pop up and I'm back down in the corner over on the right hand side. Just messing around with some of the props we've got in some of my spare time. I don't have a Stream Deck. No, I did look at getting one. I couldn't really justify it at the moment. Everything's being done with the mouse, and I saw that you can use Stream Deck on the phone, but I'm actually using OBS. So this webcam that you're seeing me on now is actually my iPhone, using OBS camera. So yeah, don't tell me about those things that I know they look really good. I can't spend money on this stuff at the moment, little by little. So back to the topic. Yes, thanks Raf for this post, for sharing it and raising awareness. I should really go through and watch the webinar or the presentation. Let's just see how easy it is to go and grab some pandemic related controls. So sign up to get access with topic. So both paid along with the gym. So it's this link I want, I think. Sorry, stuttering while I read. Just paste this in. Free list. So how can I get this information? In addition, sign up to the common controls. Create an authority document list. So what's the list called? Self-assessment. Let's just type pandemic in here and see what happens. There we go. Excellent. And then we've got the controls in there. So if the new list, if I save my list, create a name, call it COVID-19. I'll put an equals rather than a dash. Now, is it going to give me an API? Did we get an API on here? Sorry, I haven't watched it. I keep saying it, but I know I shouldn't be asking questions when the answers are there. No, I've not played with UCS Mapper. That's something I think Jing was posting about on the community. So if I can search in here UCF Mapper, I'm pretty sure this is something Jing was posting about. Q&A map existing policies. Yeah, this one, Jing. There we go. So I've not played with it. Really, what I tend to get involved in is, customers got this, signed up, and we kind of help them build their list out, and then pull it into ServiceNow and start to consume it in there. So I guess, I don't know. I can see they're free, yes, but how do we get the API? Is the API free? That's the problem. Shared the list online and is available to anyone here. Okay. the mapping tool, I mean, if you look at what UCF does, the Common Controls Hub, it's really powerful stuff. You know, if you want to look at alignment and visual representation, I think this going hand in hand with ServiceNow. I know some of the comments have been around the ability to visualize the information once it's in ServiceNow. But if you have got the Common Controls Hub, there's so much power here. And if you look at how they do it as well, with the technology of language, looking at breaking down and decomposing authority documents down to these kind of single line controls, it's really powerful stuff. The mapper, I can imagine if we can take some of your own controls and load that in, yeah, it's going to save people a lot of person hours. So I've got this list. I don't think I might be missing something. I don't want to spend ages stuttering around, but your API key will be in the upper right menu under your name. Okay, so I thought you had to sign up for this. Yeah, my profile, manage your account, API, mapper training seats. Oh look, under here. So that's about the mapper there. Advanced options, account details. It's a starter account, so this is why I think I don't think I'll get the API. Because it would be in this section. So I don't know how we pull that information in. From here. Okay. Lesson for me, go back and watch the presentation basically. The team have spent ages building out all this information for us, and I'm just coming in here trying to fast track it and leapfrog. I need to watch all of the presentation, and then I will post back. Yeah, probably Ben, you're used to seeing a premium account. I think you get the API settings all in here. I've just signed up for a free account, so let me see what's possible. I'll do some research and come back. Yeah, my bad, but yeah, really appreciate that. I guess while we've got a bit of an audience, I will just go and see if there's anything in the communities for. I'll go start with GRC. I did check this before I went live. Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, Ben, that would be appreciated. I was really focusing on this topic just to see how easy it is to get the information, and I can see that, yeah, I've signed up and actually I've got the information here. So if I want to consume this, or start at least just thinking about how do we get our heads around this, you know, this is brilliant. These are the regulations that we maybe see relevance for, related to, I seem to be in a slightly different thing now versus my list, but the pandemic stuff, yeah, if we can just at least start to review the content, not pulling it into ServiceNow with an API would be lovely. In the absence of that, just being able to yeah, I think review the content and start to think about what that means for your organization. That's really powerful stuff. So yeah, I think what I'll do is go back into the community and just see if there's any. Yeah, there's nothing unanswered, unfortunately. I think things have quietened down a little bit in the COVID-19 resources. Let's see if there's any. Nothing to reply to right now, so I will go back to the first community, the main homepage, and just see if I can help anyone in here. How can I get the save button to work properly on an M2M table? when I create a new entry on the child table of an end-to-end relationship, everything works properly if I press the submit button. However, if I press the save button, the entry is created but it isn't linked to the parent. So yeah, I guess the save, it's to do with the stack basically in there. So when you click submit or update, it takes you back to where you were beforehand. I think the UI action, when you look at it, will tell you that it's usually a list, but actually the journey that you're referring to there, where did it go? Sorry, let me close my tabs down. Samuel, the update button, or the journey you're referring to, so from a form you've gone into a many-to-many related list, and then you've clicked new to create that target record, and then you click submit, it creates the record and it returns, and in doing so it's actually got hold of the record and populated some information that's then available to that reference and the route that you went in. So that is, a lot of that's handled by syspalm collection parameters. If you click save, I don't think it's going to know. You're going to kind of interrupt that stack flow, I think. The best way I can think to describe it. Ben, thanks for anything we can do on that content, be really useful. And the draft posting, sometimes with the best intentions, you know it's most of the time it's all done in free time. This is why I like to try and make an effort to go into the community. Certainly when I was starting on ServiceNow, every question I had would be in that community, and then I tried to give a little bit back, but that's why we call this community service. So it's unpaid work. Where would be a many-to-many relationship that I can think of if I go to where I'd be able to create a new record? Let's just think about this from change request. Approvers, I'm thinking. Is that many-to-many? If not, the entity type to profile, that could work. So entity type to entity. Still getting my nomenclature mixed up. Yeah, approvers doesn't have the new button. Okay, so let's go to entity type. Then, so yeah, we've got no new button there. Where's a good example of a many-to-many relationship where you would have a new button? I can't think of a good example. Let me just paste in here and just see what's the use case. I think it's always interesting to see that. Say, hi Samuel, what is your specific use case and what M2M tables are you using? I think this will be related to the stack. When you click submit, it will return to the previous location, and the relevant reference fields will be populated. Let me post this. I'll tell you what I've been doing, just sharing this link into the chat so you can time bound. If you want to jump through, you can see when it was posted and skip to that part of the video. It might be useful. I think this will be related to the stack. When you click submit, it will return to the previous location, and the relevant reference fields will be populated using sys collection values. You could try, after save, clicking update. This would be helpful. Curious why you are saving and not submitting. You know, I think the submit, update and save buttons are some of the really kind of core functionality of the platform that can be quite difficult to get your head around. Once you understand the behavior, you can kind of plan for it as well, and you can think ahead. Right, you know, if I create an entity type, I want to save it. I don't want to submit it, because once I've saved my entity type, I then want to go to the entity filter. So I want to be in the record, save it, stay here, and then come in here and click new. But once I've created my entity filter, I'll click submit, and it will bring me back here with the record created. So sometimes, and obviously as well, if you've got different tabs open, this is messing around with your stack, and this does give some weird results. Right click save, click update. You know, sometimes I'd love the save button to be here, but then I go onto a customer instance where they've put the save button there, and I still keep right clicking and it's not there. So I think you can't win. I was just curious from Samuel, you know, what's the use case and why is he choosing to click save and not click submit? So okay, let's have a look here. So adding a new group or creating a new indicator from the control related list. Okay, you know, that's not a many-to-many though. That's a one-to-many from a control. Yeah, I think it does make sense. If you know, so I'm just looking at the comments. So if you know why and what's going to happen, then it does make sense and it's easier to work with. But yeah, for kind of, I guess, the consumers coming into the platform now, yeah, it's a bit more difficult. Let's see if I get to a risk, and risk same as a control indicators. I don't get the new button. I think that's a property. Okay, I'll try and do one more post, and looking at the stream time, how long have we been online? Maybe I'll round it up to 2 hours. Control template. Yeah, I think it's still going to be so I was looking for many to many. I think you mentioned something about groups. That's probably the more, yeah, group member. There we go. Okay, so let's do it. Let's go to the platform kind of back end areas, groups. If I've got a group and I've got a member, yes, perfect. So this is a many-to-many relationship, right? One user can be in many groups. A group can have many users in it. And here's Akib and Bushra. Great to see these guys in the demo data. I think Akib's photo's in here as well. Here he is. Hope you're keeping well, Akib. Good to see you in the demo data. So if I create a new member and just say test M2M1, M2M1 test. Not going to populate any of the other stuff, and click submit. If I click submit, it's created the user and it's populated them in my many-to-many table. If I do it with M2M, M2M2 dot test, I think I did it the other way around before, but M2M2 test and save. Obviously now I've saved, I'm staying in that location. But if I click update, I'm curious, does this then take me back to the group. I'm in the group, so that's worked. It has populated me in the group. If I click update, it's taking me back. So I'm in here. So that works for me. Yeah, let's see. Relevant. You could try after save clicking update. Well, that worked. Not sure if this would be helpful. Curious why you're saving and not submitting. What I imagine, maybe when you create the user, so we come in here, I've got no related list because the record doesn't exist yet. So m2m3.test and say m2m3test. If I save here, now I've got the record saved and I've got access to the rated list. But if I go off and start doing things in here, it's going to be very difficult to then come back. But the important thing is I am in the group. So I went through the group and I can now, the users populated. If you're trying to do multiple users, I would suggest you click new, you submit, you come back, go through that kind of data entry like Benjamin's referring to, and then we can go back through those users afterwards and update them with the information. So one more. Let's do one more. Communities. Just go to the home page. I think we need to get some like sound effects for like first to reply. You know, if we get that sound effect and animation on the screen. I think some visual art will be useful. A bit more entertaining. Flag article stopped working. I think that's going to be about knowledge, and I don't mean to be fussy, but probably not up to speed on knowledge. Let's have a look. Flag article. Jared, I don't know Jared. Are these, Benjamin, you might be able to help me. Are these all real people? Is Able Tutor a real person? Let's have a look at the sys users. Jared. He's not showing up anymore. It's user ID. No. Maybe he's opted out of his, for privacy reasons. It's when the advanced property is good to set up. Insert and stay buttons. Okay. I'm not, sometimes those buttons are just there. I didn't realise they were controlled by a property. Did I spell Jared wrong? Sorry, my bad. Jared. No? No. Not here. Oh well. Jared. What was his other name? Bennett. Let's have a look. Here he is, Gerard. I did recognise the name. Jared.Bennett. There we go. Able gets the most amount of use just because he's at the top and he doesn't have any roles, so it's quite easy. I did see he had a picture recently actually, so they do update it. Yeah, we'll just cut this bit out, Ben. Don't worry. So, flag article. I cloned the knowledge article content to make some small changes. Where did that go? Is that my... Yeah. When the flag article function stopped working in the new widget, cloned knowledge article content. Flag article function stopped working in the new widget. Okay, so let's have a go at this. Just going to go into global and create an update. Oops, update set. Let's see, flag article. Okay, submit. So Ben, is it? Can I call you Ben? Benjamin? Let me know. Don't want to be rude or presume. My name's actually Philip, but Phil is easier. So I was going to ask something then. I got distracted. Oh yeah, do you use OBS for your training then? For your training videos? That was my question. Okay, so you're using OBS for training. I didn't know this. I know that Microsoft Teams allows you to broadcast events using OBS. We did a little bit of testing with that internally. I know you guys use Zoom a lot, so are you broadcasting to Zoom? Zoom lets you receive a feed from OBS. Ben, it is, thank you. Right, okay, so let's look at this issue. Sorry, it's a bit difficult. I don't know what this is going to be like for anyone if they do watch back me kind of jumping around, but that's why I just label these as test broadcasts. It's a caveat, don't expect too much. So knowledge article content is a widget. So go to widget, service portal widget. What's it called? Knowledge article content. Knowledge article content. So Marek has said that he's cloned a widget. And presumably, so knowledge article content. What was the previous one called? KB article content. What I'll do is just put a prefix on there. So if I go and add this to a page, portal. Oh, wow, I've got a lot in here. It's the SP one. Jump on SP. Okay, a little Easter egg. It is Easter. Hold on, so I'm just looking at the chat. So I'm going to go down the road of the service portal. I'm not sure we're going to finish this in 15 minutes, but I'm interested in this little Easter egg now. So let's just do this quickly. Is this attachment? Is it plural? Is it one of those that is? No, it's singular. Lovely. So look for table name incident. Bluetooth's playing up. Here we go, we're back. Incident. My mouse giving up as well. Yeah, mouse is back. Okay. Messing around with my wireless headphones I'm not wearing anyway. So, incident, just look in here. If you go and look at the system mentions table, filter by incidents, you'll find a really funny picture of Chuck. Who knows? Which one's it going to be? Boom. Not that one. Not that one. Oh, that interface looked lovely. No? Am I getting close? Oh, maybe just look for Chuck. Some of those images are excellent. File should be called Chuck Ross. Maybe it's not on incident table. Maybe it's in demo data. It might be I've not installed something. chuckross.png. Any more Easter eggs, Ben? You know, any more Easter eggs? It is Easter's coming. So, right. I've got a portal. Let's just jump to the portal, and from here I can start messing around with pages. So if I go to knowledge base. ID equals KB article. I assume this is going to be knowledge article content. So flag article here, if I click flag article, what's going to happen to it? Flag this article, I don't like it. Okay, submit this. Article has been flagged. Flag article twice. So see, does it allow me to flag that twice? Yep. And let's get that KB article number. Just go back to knowledge bases. Okay, go to number. That's what's come from. Let's just go and check in here what happens when we flag an article. So we can see here feedback and feedback tasks, internal feedback. So this is as a result of me flagging the article. So what happens if I just modify the page, just swap out those widgets? Knowledge article content, knowledge article, I didn't name it differently, did I? That was a bit silly. Let me, yeah, this one. Just do it that way. I will refresh my page designer. Let's just see WR. Boom, boom. SNKM portal application. That's why it didn't let me delete it. So go to. Oh, I lost my nav page. How's the audio? Yeah, this microphone's not doing too bad. So just worried that it might end up switching itself off. Let's look at this update set. I'm going to change what I'll do under child. I love using batch. This is recommended now in all of the training for implementation for GRC, probably mainly because it's in different scopes, but probably in other areas. Maybe Ben can actually comment on that. So I've got my global update set, right, and now I want to create a scoped one within here. Now if I change to, what was it called, knowledge KM SN ServiceNow KM service portal, it told me the message. Knowledge management service portal. So I want to create one in there, knowledge management service portal. So if I change this here, I don't get the new button, and this is a little bit frustrating. So if I stay in global, what I do is click new, and then I change to knowledge management service portal, and that keeps my parent populated and keeps the application. And I just find this a bit of an easier way to do this. And then don't forget to submit and make current. So now I've got a nice little batch. If I go to my page designer, I'll actually be able to make changes to this because it is scoped. Knowledge article content, get rid of that, and knowledge article content. So right now, if that loads, KB, is that because I've done it in global? Okay, it's going to be a scope issue. Yeah, I cloned it into global, not thinking about any permissions. So, I mean, that could be it. That could be the reason. Let's just check with Marek. Hi, Marek. Did you clone your widget into the knowledge management service portal scope? Because I think probably what's happening, if you looked at that error message, you will see KB portal service is not defined, and either that's going to be because it's not prefixed, and then even if we prefixed it, there's quite a high chance that it might be restricted. So script includes, let's just take a quick look at this in here. Yeah, so it needs to be prefixed. The call should be made like this in the widget, and it's accessible from this application scope only. So what you need to do, I think, then, same mistake I just made. If we look at that widget, knowledge article content, not that one. Let's clone the original. Where have you gone? Got distracted. Here we go. Knowledge article content. If I clone this now, and I'll call it WR2, and the other one try and create some kind of commonality in there. Now if I save that, it's in the right scope now. If I go to the page designer, I know that I've lost, there's a, can we page, open the page in, I want to open the page in the platform. Go to pages, under portal, just search on that ID. I didn't copy it correctly, did I? Ah, it's because I'm dragging. The drag doesn't work very well. So in this page, if we look at it, you'll see it's got this instance here. I want rid of that. It's going to delete that from this back end because you can't see it in Page Designer. Here you can't see, it's in there somewhere. If I refresh that, not going to be in there. If I look at WR2, put this one in there. There we go. We've got the same error that we had before. The fact that the article's not found just because we've not passed the parameter in. We got an error last time. Now we don't have an error, but is the flag article going to work? No. Right, excellent. So before we can diagnose any issues, we have to be able to recreate them, and we've recreated them. So that's the only reason I'm getting excited about the fact that that's broken. Stopped working in a new widget. When I click on it, I get the following dialog box. Oh, I get the same issue. So let's have a look at the widget. This is the widget. That's the original one. Page designer. Just tidy this up a little bit. Don't need the knowledge article, but what we want is the widget in the widget designer. Here we are, opening widget editor. Is there any ng template assigned to the widget? It pops up a modal. You need to have an ng template assigned. Even if you close the widget, you need to set up the relationship manually. You see, we've got the big guns online. So let's compare that actually, Raf. Good, very good shout there. So the original, if we look down here, all the way at the bottom, we've got 3 Angular templates. If we look at my clone, we've got none. So therefore, and that's the, if we look at the error, KB flag article modal. So this is a weird one. Why is it new? Should it be new? Is there not an edit button? Voila. Yeah, we've not sorted it yet though. I think we're definitely on the right track, and we need to see this one through. But how do you get them in here? If I click new, do I have to paste the whole thing in? Is it an actual? And this is the stuff with the now experience where it becomes a lot more reusable. Is that right? You can reference things, you don't have to create them. So if I do this, No? Okay, I got that wrong. Am I doing this wrong? Am I creating duplication? It feels like duplication. I've already got one here. They are specific for the widget. Okay. Good to know. But we've got a duplicate key, so I need to paste the whole thing. I did. Got the whole thing. But I can't have a duplicate key. Yeah, this feels like a bit of a flaw in the matrix, to be honest. The fact I've then got to come in here and do this. Submit that. Invalid. The key is not in the title. ID. I think duplicate key came from. Oh, is it in here somewhere as well? No, it's in the HTML of the widget, right? So if I save this or submit this, that should work. Excellent, it did. Thank you. So then what we do is look for the original string in HTML. Yeah, I mean the clone should copy the templates as well. Yeah, I'm in the widget. I am in the widget and I'm searching and that's not in here. No, not in there somewhere, is it? Yeah, I've got the original. So what have I created? I've created that one of the three, but this is the one this is the kind of suspect. Okay, in the client pipe, C dot. Search for modal, SP modal in the client. Is it in here? Is it the widget editor? Yeah, let's do it in here. SP modal, that's for unsubscribe. Obviously the one we were talking about was flag article, so is article subscribed. Submit flag comments isn't available. Article flagged, so this is definitely where it's getting triggered. Why is that link then not? There we go. Template URL. That's what we want. That's the puppy. So we want the same thing. Template URL. WR. Save that. I'm not sure if any of my other templates are going to fail, but I'm just going to jump straight in here and just test that without creating the other two. Let's just see if this is the culprit. Flag article. There we go. Raf. Right. You need to comment on this one. Right. I'll write it for you, and then you submit it so you can get the points. 40 points otherwise. Flag this article. Test. Let's just make sure that works. Yeah. Okay. So let's just run through those steps. Firstly, make sure you clone your widget into the scope. That's, I think, a given. Secondly, you also need to recreate the Angular templates. This is possible from the back end. original. Oh, a beer, please. Yeah, I'll buy you a beer, mate. What are you doing this weekend, Raf? I'll add it to your Tesco's order. So let's just copy that in. That's an example, and this is an example of what we did to fix that one. And then in the client script we did this. So I think those 3 screenshots should help. Secondly, you also need to create the back end view. The ID needs to be unique, so prefix with some initials, company name, etc. You then need to edit the client widget, client script, and what page line, what line was it on? Line 298. And line 298 you should find reference to update this to your new ID, a new template ID. There are 3 to copy. This one is your main culprit. And then if I just insert some of those screenshots, just do this in the other window. What's the time? It's half past midnight. Really got carried away here. It's only let me paste in one. It's only pasted in one image at a time there. I thought I could do multiple. The original. I'm just going to upload this last file, and then I'll be able to post this. Thanks to so my browser's crashing. Not happy with me. Please don't lose all that text. The browser is crashing out, I'm afraid. That's really painful. I wonder if it's because I've never seen this browser task manager. I'm still using a beta version of this as well, so I know it's my fault. Can I join this back to here. I separated it, but I can't rejoin it. Move tab to another window. There we go. This one. Can you let me post it now? Ah, it's stuck. Raf, you've got a meeting early. I didn't realise this was going to go on so long. I'll try and get this post over to the person that asked the question. Ben, thanks a lot for signing in with us this evening. I'm just going to try and sign out with some final cuts there with my transitions. Yeah, thanks to Ben, thanks to Raf for joining us. My name's Phil, and I've been hosting this live stream community service on ServiceNow for Phil Goes Deep channel. Yeah, thanks to anyone who has locked in or watched afterwards. Been a lot more interesting with actual live users getting involved in the chat, so if you've got any comments, hit me up on LinkedIn, in the comments of the video on YouTube, or in the ServiceNow community. Otherwise, please stay safe, and I will catch you next time. So thank you very much, and good night.